You're tuned in to Oilers Nation every day with Tyler Yaremchuk, live every weekday on the Nation Network YouTube.
Soup's cold.
There you have it.
There you have it. Let's get into it with the lead. Ooh. No? There it is.
Probably wasn't expecting such a short lead.
Yeah. Oh, half a second too late. Very similar to, I guess, what our boy Jack Campbell's like on a lot of shots. Okay. All right. I've taken my 2 cheap ones. I'm good now. I'm done. Welcome into Oilers Nation Everyday, streaming live on the Nation Network YouTube, where our boy QF Pro is in with the first comment, said a big week ahead to set us up for the playoff push. After this week, we have 15 games remaining, 5 of which are against divisional opponents currently above us in the standings. Okay. It is a big week coming up. It's going to be busy. 18 games to go for the Edmonton Oilers in the regular season. And we'll be coming to you for all of those from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out, sportscloset.ca.
Where is the time gone?
Honestly, we are like well into the final quarter of the regular season here. Granted, I'm hoping we have a long, healthy run of playoff game day shows to do, because having to fill a lot of time between the end of the season and the draft would be really, really crappy. But anyways, hoping our YouTube holds up, or our internet holds up today as well. So you never know. You never know with this YouTube. The only thing in the Edmonton market, no, I said I was done with Jack Campbell cheap jokes. No more. We're going to break that down coming up with our 3 big things. Also, Mike McKenna is going to pop in for our friends at Star Mechanical. I wonder what we're going to ask the former NHL goaltender Mike McKenna about.
Could be a variety of things.
We should go back. We had him on. It was our first ever show, the first ever edition of Oilers Nation Every Day. We should go back and think and just rewatch how optimistic we all probably were about Jack Campbell at that point, and then like compare it to now, because it'd be very different.
It would be extremely different. There'd be probably no optimism now. I mean, let's not predict it. It's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's extremely tough to watch this guy play at the moment, and there's not a lot of belief, unfortunately, when he's in between the pipes.
No, there is not. It is also a Sherwood Ford Giant game day. Shout out to our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant. The Oilers are in Buffalo to take on a Sabres team that is coming off a very impressive victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's a little concerning. The Sabres also pushing up for a playoff spot right now, and I believe based on points percentage, they are in and actually holding on to that second spot. So it should be a pretty motivated and pretty hungry Sabres team tonight. They're playing meaningful hockey in March in Buffalo. That fan base is they're gonna get going right away on the Sabres here. Shout out to everyone watching on the Nation Network YouTube as well. If you can do me a solid, hammer that like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. You should. You don't want to miss anything.
A lot of people who watch the show aren't subscribed, which I was surprised about.
Yeah, I know. Like when you look at the numbers and like the streaming numbers. Anyways, internet's holding. That means we can get into our 3 big things, brought to you by AMA Travel. They make our nation vacations possible, and they can help you with your summer vacation. Also, Jay's not here because he's in an all-day meeting, but I see he just texted you what his bet is going to be for tonight. So
stay tuned for that little teaser.
Right on time, Jay. 3 big things brought to you by AMA Travel. Number 1, Liam. Okay. In the last week, they came away from that stretch, and we recognized it was a hard stretch last week, right? You went Boston, Toronto, Winnipeg. The Oilers walked away from it 500. My first big thing is that the offense is humming, and it's not necessarily all McDavid and Draisaitl. They're getting some contributions from all over the place. Nick Bukestad, first as an Oiler in the loss on Saturday. They're getting a ton of offense, and they walked away from that really difficult stretch at 500. It ended poorly, but last week, no complaints.
I think, too, like, obviously, they come away 500, like you said. But when you watch the games, I think it's fair to say the Oilers were probably the best team in 3 or 4 of them.
They were really good against Boston.
And the only one that went poorly was Winnipeg. I know that's a little bit on the goalie, but I think there was large portions of that game where Winnipeg had a lot of control outside of it. So, I think the Oilers had a fantastic week.
Third period, though, they turned on the Jets.
They did.
And
No pun
Winnipeg's,
intended.
yeah, and yeah, there you go. I didn't even think about that. Third period, they brought it up a level, but Winnipeg's goalie, even though he was fighting it that night, Connor Hellebuck, fighting it for a second straight night against the Oilers, he actually played really well in third and made some big saves. So
there's some goalies that can fight it and then still find that rhythm. And Connor Hellebuck, man, he's on a tough stretch right now. But boy, oh boy, I promise you, every time he's between that pipes, the Winnipeg Jets think they can win a hockey game.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how they have won hockey games this entire year. So I have zero problems with the way the offense is going. In fact, this is probably the best they've looked offensively, I think, all season. There was that run in January. They were good, but they were lighting up the Sharks and the Ducks to get those 13-goal games. Yeah, they were lighting up some generally poor teams. Like, they're beating good hockey teams right now, and in their last 3 games, they have 18 goals, averaging 6 goals a game. If I was Craig Anderson, the expected starter for the Buffalo Sabres, does the mic keep falling down?
It keeps falling down. I might switch. Should I switch mics?
I don't know. I think
we'll stay here. You just can't see half my face. Good idea. This will work. These mic arms are great. We just keep telling ourselves.
That's a little better.
Yep.
It's like Jack Campbell. You just got to believe in them. I said I was done. Anyway, 6 goals, average of 6 goals per game over their last 3. If I'm Craig Anderson tonight, I'm rather scared about the onslaught I'm going to face. Edmonton expected to go with Stuart Skinner tonight. The Oilers' power play is also clicking pretty well. Namely, Leon Draisaitl is scoring a lot on the power play. This guy on the season is now up to 26 power play goals, 7 clear of second place in the league. He's got 41 on the year, 26 of them on the power play. That is crazy. And I got a couple of things I want to say on this in regards to Draisaitl in the power play. There was a great chart that was tweeted out to, I forget who had it, showed where he scored a lot of his goals. A lot of them from that right side of the ice in his office. Yep. And there are a lot of people who are pushing this narrative and complaining about this. Well, it'd be great if he could do something other than just that. It'd be great if he could score 5-on-5. It'd be great if he would move around a little bit. And I don't understand, and this is people from other fan bases as well, not just some Oilers fans. People want to discount Draisaitl doing what he does on the power play, like we haven't just spent 15 to 18 years in the NHL being in awe consistently about how Alex Ovechkin does the exact same thing. Steven Stamkos, the exact same thing. They park in one spot on the power play and they don't move. And everyone's acting like this is, Leon Draisaitl is the only star who benefits from production. He only scores on the power play. One, if it was this easy to score on the power play, everyone would do it. It's a legitimate talent. And I know he's got Connor McDavid feeding him and things like that. It's great. But I think we need to give Draisaitl a little bit more respect for being as elite and unstoppable as he is, because it's getting to the point where everyone knows what the Oilers are trying to do. They're trying to feed Leon Draisaitl in his office or set up situations where he can creep back door. That is basically the game right now on the power play, and no one can stop it. Put some respect on Leon Draisaitl's name, the best goal scorer in the NHL, full stop, right now. He is the best. And I understand Connor McDavid is on an unbelievable run and has decided this year, hey, I'm going to start scoring goals. Doesn't even matter to me. Leon Draisaitl, let's go back the last 5 years. Who has the most goals in the NHL in the last 5 years? It is number 29. It's Leon Draisaitl with 220. He's an absolute machine. Put some respect on his name. That's my second big thing.
I just never understood the argument of power play goals being discounted for what they are. They count exactly the same as what somebody who scores 5-on-5. Who cares? The Oilers are put on an advantage, and they're able to capitalize more times than not because they have elite players like Leon Draisaitl who can score from the craziest angles in the world. Like, his office is kind of nuts where it is, to be honest. Like, it is so difficult to score from that position. And I couldn't give two where Leon Draisaitl scores a goal. He could score 500 empty net goals for all I care. As long as he's putting the puck in the back of the net, it truly does not matter to me how he's scoring goals.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I'm going to have to start going on this rant again. I had to do it last year. Well, what's going to happen in the playoffs when there's not as many power plays? That's not true. It has never been true. Go back to the last 5 years in the NHL. The idea that there's less power plays in the playoffs is just a made-up hockey narrative that somehow people still run with. Last year in the regular season, Liam, the Oilers had 2.87 power plays per game. That ranked them in the bottom half of the NHL. In the playoffs, it went up 3.13 power plays per game. They got, on average, 0.4-ish more power plays per game in the playoffs than they did in the regular season, and that was still 13th amongst playoff teams last year. There's only 16. The Oilers, at more power plays than they got in the regular season, were still right near the bottom in power play opportunities per game. The Boston Bruins, 4.14. The Minnesota Wild, Washington Capitals, and Toronto Maple Leafs, 4 teams in last year's playoffs were above 4 power plays per game. You want to know how many teams in the regular season were above 4 power plays per game?
Go ahead.
Zip.
Wow.
Not one. Not even a team above 3.5. The idea that the Oilers won't be able to ride a hot power play throughout the playoffs is just such an uneducated take that so many people in media still run with. And it's wild because it makes absolutely no sense. Casey Forrester, overall, there are way less penalties, man. Give your melon a shake. I literally just explained how that's not true with numbers, with like what actually happened last season.
There's actually going to be more because of how aggressive it seems. So it feels like, and I understand this feeling, that there's going to be less because so much is like missed. But really, they're calling more because so much more is happening.
Yeah, you could argue, and the point I will give, there are more infractions. Sure. There are missed calls in the regular season, though. You just notice them more when it's the playoffs and there's more on the line. So again, the idea that the Oilers and Leon Draisaitl are suddenly going to be ineffective because in the playoffs power plays go, like, again, it's just flat out not true. Our boy Kenneth Holland, I should call him because I don't want people to get confused. He just says, at Casey, the guy arguing with me, hates facts. And I mean, that's all I'm doing here is I'm spewing facts. My third big thing from the game on Saturday, Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard are here. And Liam, they are beautiful.
They're very, very good. We may have seen this before, Tyler. When Evan Bouchard goes with a veteran defenseman, there's some positive impact. You would have thought.
It is a 3-game sample size. I know it. First off, here are some Evan Bouchard numbers. Averaging 20 minutes and 50 seconds. He's picked up 3 assists. They all came in the game on Saturday. He's got 7 shots on goal in the span. Oh, and look at the Oilers power play, 31.3%. Everyone was like, oh, the Oilers power play is not going to be able to score with Barrie. McDavid and Draisaitl are going to be replacement level now that Tyson Barrie's gone. Evan Bouchard is really damn good at quarterback in a power play. And although he didn't get a point on this goal, there was a play in the first game against the Jets on Friday. He holds it in at the line. Great keeping. Makes a smart, quick play with the puck. The Oilers end up scoring a couple seconds later. The Oilers power play, not that I even feel like we should have been talking about this. It's going to be fine, everyone. Evan Bouchard's been great on the power play.
And this is coming against the Winnipeg Jets, who are the second best penalty kill in the league, and also Toronto, who is the 11th. It's a good couple of penalty kills they just went up against, and they were able to produce at such a high rate. I understand kind of the worry in a way of like replacing someone like that in such a good power play, but also let's not underestimate how offensive minded Evan Bouchard is. We always talk about his defensive issues. That's because his offense is so strong, and I get it. He's shin pad assassin. That is something that needs to get better.
He needs to work on it, but he's a young dude.
But when he's playing with those kind of players, they're going to eventually find ways to make it so that Evan Bouchard has these shooting lanes available to him, because everybody on that power play is what makes it one great power play. It's not just Tyson Barrie. It's not just McDavid and Draisaitl. As a 5-man unit, they are very, very difficult to break down. And taking one piece out isn't going to be a massive issue, especially when it's Barrie for Bouchard. I know earlier on when Draisaitl missed those 1 or 2 games, the power play wasn't quite clicking as much, but that's obvious. I mean, you're taking out Leon Draisaitl. So I'm not worried about the power play at all with Bouchard in there. I think actually it'll be just as good, if not slightly better.
I'm fired up. I'm spicy today. Old man Barker. Who are these two and why should we value their opinions? Honestly, just don't watch. Just there's an X on your browser somewhere. Just close it. Go do whatever the hell else you were doing on a Monday, dude. The Oilers power play is going to be fine. Back to Bouchard and Ekholm specifically, though. Again, I am understanding this is a 3-game sample size. It is a small sample size. In the last 3 games, with both Evan Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm off the ice, there's been 458 minutes played at 5-on-5. The Oilers have been outscored 26-22. Outscored 26-22 in that time. With Bouchard and Ekholm on the ice, they are outscoring the opposition 5-1 at 5-on-5.
Wow.
It's only been 36 minutes and they've scored 5 goals. In 36 minutes with Bouchard and Ekholm on the ice, 5 goals for. In 458 minutes with them off the ice, they've only scored 22. I am really not that good at math, but they're producing a lot more with those two on the ice, and they're giving up a lot less with those two on the ice. They look like a really damn good duo. They're outshooting the opposition 22-15. The Oilers are, when both Bouchard and Ekholm are on the ice. And I think it should be noted, Mattias Ekholm's given this guy a bit of a boost and hopefully helping him find his confidence, because in these 3 games, there's also been 162 minutes where Bouchard has been on the ice at 5-on-5 without Ekholm, and it's 8-6 in that span for the other team. So again, I'm not very good at math. Those ratios don't line up. Bouchard and Ekholm, keep them together, Woody. Do not think twice. I don't want to see them on a pairing apart for the rest of the season.
What are you going to do with the other pairings? For me, can you see what the Nurse and Cece ones are? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Because they have been visibly, mostly Cece more than Nurse, I find him, but he's having a very difficult time at the moment. And I'm wondering,
you want all year or just in the last?
Let's just do the last
3 games here.
3 games, sure.
Okay. So in those, I hit the wrong button. Darn it.
Because Cece for me is somebody who, for a long time, people didn't talk about because he wasn't doing anything wrong. But these past few games, like that offside call against the Leafs where he just stopped playing and they scored, it's been a bit of a difficult run.
I had that second number messed up. I went back an extra week with both of them off the ice, but regardless, it shows, the point being that it shows the impact that adding Ekholm has brought. Because you look at that sample size with no Bouchard, Ekholm before, compared to what they're at now, it's unbelievable. So Nurse and Cece together have played 37 minutes in the last 3 games at 5-on-5. The Oilers are outscored 3-1. It's not good. It's not a great look for your top pairing. But, and Aaron, maybe we could flash these two up here, or flash up the D pairings. I'm not sure what else you do here. I don't think Nurse and Desharnais would be a good pairing. I don't think Kulak and Cece would be a good pairing. I do think that this is one of those situations where you just need these guys to play better. There's no, with Bouchard, I do believe Ekholm can be a bit of a permanent spark for him. And that's why I want them to stay together. Because again, we at least have the sample size of Bouchard with a good vet before, boosted up his numbers, and Bouchard played his best hockey when he had a good veteran kind of safety net with him. But you need Cece and Nurse, I should say. I want to say it in that order, to just be better. And that's what's going to allow this defense to really turn a corner.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think there's many options other than kind of what's there. Like Desharnais and Nurse, maybe that could be one, but I don't know if I want to trust Desharnais with those kind of minutes at the moment. So I feel like this is what you get. Maybe you just give Ekholm and Bouchard some extra minutes to just take it off. Not even Nurse. I think Nurse has actually been probably fine.
I think as the year's gone on, he's gotten better and better. It's just he was fighting it early. And does he still make the odd turnover and stuff? Yeah, but every D-man does, especially every D-man who you trust to play that many minutes. Like Ekholm's made some bad plays.
He made that one on a goal. I think it was actually on Saturday where he blind backhand pass behind the net and he got to the Jets player and they scored. It just happens, right?
When you have a D-man on the ice in his own end and playing north of 20 minutes every game, they're going to make bad plays. Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, they make bad plays too. Like sometimes stuff just happens, you know?
Yeah. So I think eventually these two are just going to have to find a rhythm. We know Nurse and Cece can play well together. They were absolute rocks back there in the playoffs for the Oilers last year. Cece got the game-winning goal in Game 7. For crying out loud. Like this guy is, he's got it. He's just fighting it bad right now.
Yeah. Joey, the backup optimist, perfectly said, Tyler, Cece, and Nurse. Rusty, the reckless optimist, said, I'm very interested to see McLeod on the top line tonight if the lines are the same as they were at practice this morning. And I know we haven't talked Jack Campbell yet. I'm intentionally saving that because my friend Mike McKenna, dailyfaceoff.com analyst, former NHL goaltender, was a professional goalie for a long time. He's going to join us in a few minutes and break this all down. But we do have insight on the lines for tonight. The Oilers going back to 12-6, a configuration that they haven't won with since December. Granted, I think it was pretty late in December, but this is what the lines are looking like. McDavid, McLeod, and Zach Hyman. is the expected top line. Rye, Dry, and Kai on the second line. I actually thought they kept playing good hockey. I think they're looking good right now, and you can keep running with them. The third line, you got Nick Bukestad, who's averaging a goal a game since joining the Edmonton Oilers.
Yep.
Stats. Warren Fogle, who's playing great hockey. Matthias Janmark, who popped home a shorty against the Jets. And then your fourth line, you're going Shore with Derek Ryan and Klim the Dream Costin. He's going to be on the left side there. Surprised to see Klim healthy scratched, actually.
That was surprising, especially after the conversation we had on Saturday, where it could be like a physically tough game for the Oilers. But when it happened, I thought about it. I was like, I could kind of see why in a way, but I don't know. I was a little shocked by that too.
Tyler Mulick says they'll put the lines in the blender like always. I think with 12 and 6, I think Woody will keep guys together a little bit more. And then again, you got to look at the D pairings there. No Philip Broberg tonight. He's expected to be a scratch for the Oilers. Really not much you could do in that regard, simply because unless you want to flip someone to their offside, which maybe they would try if they were on home ice against a weaker team, could control things a bit better than being on the road. A bunch of you are asking about Evander Kane. He is not going to play tonight, but he did skate today. Just wasn't a part of the line rushes. So Kane, close.
They did say, though, it would probably be Thursday when we see him back, right? Last week, I'm sure they said that in
Ken well, if
Holland's
he's skating
presser.
Today, three
He's
more
close.
days. Yeah. He's on the road trip. So you don't bring a guy on the road trip if he's not, if there's at least not a shot that he's going to play at some point. We're going to keep rolling with the Sherwood Ford Giant Game Day in just a bit, but we have a special guest joining us today on the show, and it is brought to you by Star Mechanical. You can find them online, starmechanical.ca. They've been one of Edmonton's top new home plumbing installers for the last 20 years. Need emergency service? Oh, you better believe they got you. 24/7 emergency service, 780-481-8873. And now we go to some, are we going to call it emergency goaltending analysis? It might be at that level. Mike McKenna, Daily Faceoff, former NHL goaltender. Mike, this fan base is freaking out about Jack Campbell, and there's layers to this conversation, but let's just go focus purely on him as a goalie right now. What are you noticing in his game that's not working? Oh.
And hey, how's it going there? Just making sure
There
we're
you
good.
go.
I went back for the last 5 games and watched what Jack had done, and I just think that what we're witnessing is that same type of roller coaster season that you've seen out of Jack Campbell previously in different destinations, where he'll win 8 games in a row and look pretty good in the process, and then somehow the wheels fall off. And what's frustrating is that last game against the Jets, 4 of those 6 goals are tipped in. You know, they all involve traffic, there's screens, and there's been a whole lot of traffic goals scored against. And that was one of the things that I picked up on early in the year, is that it's a generalized thing to say that a goalie has a hard time with traffic. But Jack has a really hard time with traffic right now. He's just not picking up pucks. And what seems to bother me is that you get 1 or 2 goals that go in like that, and it just feels like he loses the crispness to his game or the confidence in his game as it goes. And then you see him get beat clean by a shot or clean by a second shot. You know, it's kind of a cyclical thing where he can't just turn it off. You know, goal goes in, whatever, forget about it, move on to the next one. I'm not sure 100% what's causing that, but there's also some structural things. I think that Jack really his whole career has struggled to rotate, especially to his blocker side. Part of that's because his alignment's off. He typically has his right foot in front of his left, and then when he goes to his right side, his upper body doesn't rotate like his lower body, and it fights against one another. It's hard to get to the post. You know, these were all things that I noticed early on that I thought he'd cleaned up a little bit in some areas, and he's obviously been working on it. Like, he's changed his approach to screenshots. He's trying to look higher and look around. It's just right now he's getting beat up by it, and like I say, it feels like it's kind of this cyclical thing where he starts to search and starts to overdo what he's potentially thinking of to be able to improve again.
He's given up 24 goals against in his last 5 starts. Take us through maybe the mindset of a goalie who's struggling like this, because a lot of people are saying it's a confidence thing for Jack Campbell. He's just got to find his confidence. But in season, is that just way easier said than done?
Confidence is a real thing. There is something behind that. It's just a matter of what's it going to take? Is it just one big game to turn it around? I would argue that's not the case. You need to have 3-4 games in a row, win or lose, where you walk out of the building feeling pretty good about yourself. And, for Jack, that's not the case the last 5, I mean, we're looking at now, it's been 6 games since he's put up a save percentage over 90%. One of the games he gets pulled 4 goals on 14 shots. Like that's not a game you're walking out feeling good. Even when you win a game, you still allow 3 or 4. So I think the biggest thing is your confidence level really is tied to the generalized feeling. And to hear him say after the game, there's a couple I'd like to have back. He's brutally honest, right? But it shines through. So I think you just have to go back to your reps, your technique, your practice, and just do the things that have given you success before that allowed him to win 8 games in a row earlier this year when he was allowing 2 and 3 and against.
Yeah, and there was that run where he did look good, and it took a couple of games against some weaker opponents, but that got the ball rolling. Then it was bang, good game against Vegas, bang, good game against Tampa, and he really got going. And it was actually at a time when Skinner was starting to slip. A lot of people are going to look at Campbell, and actually, I'll throw you this for a piece of analysis. D-Cards35 in the chat. He makes himself incredibly small in the crease. Do you think, is that an equipment issue with Campbell, or when you see a guy making himself small, is that positional? What do you make of that comment?
There's some truth to it in that Campbell doesn't like the biggest upper body gear in the world. Okay. And that's part of it. I know he's experimented with different things, and he has switched from Vaughn to Brian's gear, which is a little bit squarer, at least the pads. The gloves changed as well. That happened around Christmas time, and that's when he did go on his big run. It was like once he switched to Brian's, dude, he took off. And I was just thinking, awesome, he's crossed the bridge, right? And then these last 5 games have been a bit of a step back. I do think he needs to look at himself in the mirror literally and say, man, I can be bigger. I can present bigger. What can I do with my equipment to help that? And what can I do with hand positioning? What can I do with my upper body when I'm in my stance, especially on shots that are from far away? He tends to bring his hands kind of close into his body, which does expose space and makes it a little bit bigger. But presenting's big is something I talk about commonly with goalies that I coach. You want to take up as much space visually as you can. It's not a deception game. Okay. Any commentator you ever hear say that, oh, he was giving him that side and took it away, yeah, that's a load of trash. Nobody does that anymore. You need to be as big as you can in the net. So I think there is something to it that his stance in general, where his hand positioning is, and combined with his upper body gear, which is not very big compared to others in the league, does have something to do with him looking smaller.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that there's anything Campbell can do in season that can drastically change him. This feels like one of those things, Mike, where he's going to have to just go into the summer, and it might be a long summer and a hard working summer, but to make changes like your upper body gear and things like that, it's unrealistic to think he's going to just magically flip a switch and turn this around in season, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, short of doing a full-on goalie school in the middle of the year, which you can do, and here's the thing, though, I wouldn't say it's impossible, because Skinner's, to me, has been so consistent. Right? 23 out of his 34 starts this year, Skinner's allowed either 2 or 3 goals against, Tyler. That's stunning consistency. If you can bank on Skinner starting a bunch of these next games and let Campbell just kind of get back into his own mode where he's working on his things in practice and morning skates for a little bit, it's not a bad deal. This is why I thought having these 2 goalies would be a necessity for the Oilers, and it's proven out to be. They've both won 17 games, right? I think, if I'm going to check the score stat sheet here. So the difference is that Campbell's allowed so many goals that the Oilers have had to score a ton of goals in those games. They've turned it into track meets, whereas Skinner, with his consistency and allowing less, the team hasn't had to score as often, but maybe almost to a detriment. So I do think you can do it in season. And the one thing about Campbell, man, he works, and he absolutely loved by teammates, works like crazy. He's going to try to do everything he can to help it. It's just a matter of if they can create a roadmap in season that's going to work for him again.
Let's talk a little bit about Stuart Skinner, because a lot of people are in the chat saying, 4 more years at $5 million for Campbell. The good news is you have 3 more years of Stuart Skinner at $2.6 million. I view this year as Stuart Skinner growing into his role as a number 1 goalie in the NHL. Am I being a homer? Is that hyperbole? Or do you also view this guy as someone who can be, a 1A going forward for this team?
I think with Skinner, you're still going to need to see him develop kind of an it factor, if you will, right? Like he's not the most explosive goaltender. He's not the guy that you're going to see making the highlight reel save every game. His game is built completely on control and mechanics and getting an entire body behind a puck, right? Like he's not the guy that's windmilling all the time. But like I say, it lends itself to consistency. So for Skinner to grow into a true number one role at the NHL, is that his ceiling? I'm not sure of that, but I think in tandem with Campbell, it gives you a couple bullets in the chamber there. But you wish you could even out the highs and lows for Campbell, and you could just run both of them. Because, frankly, when Campbell's at his absolute best, he's shown he can be a number one for 10 or 20 games. Whereas Skinner, to me, has shown that he can be a good number two and maybe play some number one minutes. Okay. But at what's his contract? 2.75? 2.5?
2.6 for 3 more years.
$2.6 million for a guy that's a 1A or B. That's a value. That's good. So I'd be totally happy with that. And still, even with Campbell at 5, you're still running out $7.6 million for your goalies for the next 3 years. And it's going to give Skinner a little bit of juice, man. His deal runs out a year before Campbell. So really all it's doing is making his contract makes Edmonton decide within the next year or two, what are they going to do with Jack? So, Skinner created a bit of a pressure point there in a good way, I think, for himself with the team. But yeah, can he do it? We'll see. I think he's got the mechanics. It's just developing that it factor and just killer instinct as a goaltender.
The good other piece of silver lining, I guess, for the Oilers is their path to the conference finals is Vegas, LA, and Seattle. And today on Daily Faceoff live every day, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, if people want to check it out. And you were breaking down the Pacific Division goaltending. Vegas has this weird quartet that they're going to roll with for the remainder of the season. LA has Copley and Korpisalo. Seattle has Grubauer and Jones. Neither one has been overwhelmingly impressive so far this year. Is the good news kind of for Edmonton that, hey, even if their goaltending's maybe a bit inconsistent in terms of their duo, man, those other 3 teams, it's not like any of them have a superstar between the pipes either.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to round 1 last year when you look at the Kings and Oilers. And honestly, if the Kings had better goaltending, they win that series, if you ask me. And I know that people look that Quick had a couple big games, but he also had some not good games. I covered one of those. I was in the building for it where he allowed 7, and Korpisalo is going to change the face of the Kings. Like that guy can play. He's had a great year. The Kings have given up, I believe the last I checked, they're 7th in the NHL in high danger chances against in a good way, right? The 7th least amount.
Yeah.
But Vegas is like top 2. Carolina's 1, Vegas is 2, So I don't really love Vegas's quartet, as you said, because you don't know who it's going to be. Aiden Hill's played pretty good lately for that team, but he's had tough moments. The underlying numbers aren't great for him or even for Logan Thompson if he's healthy. And Jonathan Quick has been the worst goalie in the NHL, not named Elvis Merzlikins this year. So I don't trust Vegas's goaltending. Seattle's, Marty Jones has won games, and Grubauer's played better lately. But if you're looking for an X factor there, I look at the Pacific as goaltending not being the big difference. I think it's defense in general rather than the guys between the pipes. And LA and Vegas are both pretty formidable when it comes to that.
Yeah. It's gonna be a really fun playoff run here for the Oilers.
I think
all right,
so.
Mike. Thanks for joining us today on the show, Mike. Appreciate your insight, man. And we'll tune in tomorrow when you're back in the chair for DFO Live. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Liam, can I just hear your voice? It's been a bit. I just want to hear it.
Hello, Mike. How are things?
Oh, hello. Okay, that's perfect. I just needed to hear that lovely accent of yours. So thanks, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, Mike, should have had you do the Star Mechanical ad read, so Mike could have heard your voice then. Shout out to our friends at Star Mechanical, starmechanical.ca. What did you make of that, Liam?
Yeah, I always love having Mike on the show.
He's great.
He's got such good insight on everything that he talks about, and the Jack Campbell stuff. It's just going to be a little bit of an interesting ride here until the end of the season. I know a lot of the goals, he's like Mike even said, have been tipped goals that are going in, but eventually you kind of look at your goalie and you're like, hey, man, a lot of the same goals are going in and nothing's changing. And for me, that's kind of the big thing with Campbell at the moment, especially over the weekend. It's like, I get it. 3 or 4 of them were tips, whatever. But sometimes you got to stop those too.
Yep. And it's, someone else was like, oh, a breakaway goal. And it's like, man, goalies can stop breakaways, right? Like I saw a stat over the weekend that it's like north of 50% goalies stopping breakaways this year in the NHL. Jack Campbell ain't stopping north of 50% of the breakaways he's facing. And yeah, okay, are shots getting deflected? Sure. That goes back, in my opinion, to him making himself small. So AJ Karen just said, make the save. And yeah, I think at some point with Campbell, it's just make the save. Someone else said, you got to support the boys. And I mean, it's not like people don't tune in here for us to just be.
He'll get there.
Yep, he's going to get it. Because right now, I honestly do not believe he's going to find it this year. I think this is Stuart Skinner's crease. There's, again, 18 games to go in the regular season. Jonathan Willis had a good tweet the other day that I retweeted, lining up. There's a decent argument to do things this way based on giving Skinner a good rotation. It makes sense to go Boston, Buffalo, Skinner. Toronto, give it to Campbell. And you know what? Sure. I'm down. Toronto, he's back in that building. Let's give that to Campbell and see what happens. And then you can go 7 straight for Skinner, play Vegas on the second half of a back-to-back, give him Campbell. 3 straight for Skinner, give Anaheim on the second of back-to-back. And then by that point, hopefully, the Oilers are locked into home ice advantage for round 1 of the playoffs. And you can just rest Skinner a little bit and only give him 1 of the final 3. That's how I'd split this up. But I think you do need to lean on Stuart Skinner pretty heavily down the stretch here because these are important points. Calgary, thankfully, has absolutely fallen off a cliff and makes it almost at the point where the Oilers are locked into a playoff spot. I don't want to say that yet, but the math is getting to be in their favor. Let's run through a little math hypothetical.
Here we go.
Let's say the Oilers go 10-8 in their final 18 games, which would be only 2 games above 500. Not that good, but 10-8. That'll put them on the year at, get an extra 20 points, 96 points. The Calgary Flames right now are at 67. So that means they would have to get 29 points just to catch the Oilers. But remember, they hold the tiebreaker. So just catching the Oilers is not enough. They would need 30 points in their final 19 games to catch the Oilers if the Oilers just go 10-8, which means Calgary would have to go 15-3 down the stretch. The Calgary Flames are not going 15-3, people. Nashville, maybe there's a better case to be made about them catching the Oilers simply because if they were to win all of their games in hand right now, they would be tied with the Oilers. But again, the tiebreaker's in their favor. So it would take a 4-game winning streak from Nashville with those games in hand. And we're getting to the point now as well, and I want to get this in there. I know I'm rambling and probably talking very fast. We're getting to the point where games in hand just means you have less days off from now until the end of the season. It's not necessarily a great thing to be playing a jam-packed schedule down the stretch. Again, Nashville would have to win all those games in hand. And even if that happens, Winnipeg would then have to win their game in hand and then gain a point on the Oilers down the stretch. Like, the Oilers should, in all likelihood, make the playoffs. I think Money Puck has them at like 90-some%. So I'm going to roll with Money Puck. It's looking good, but you still want to try to get home ice in round 1 because we saw how important having game 7 in your building can be last year. Although sometimes I think it's a little overblown, but still, you want that. That's something to strive for down the stretch. You play the hell out of Skinner until it seems real likely, hopefully, that you can have that that first or second spot locked up.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tyler. And the thing, we want to talk about goaltending here. Calgary has not exactly had stellar goaltending either, which is pretty much a reason why they're in the position that they are. The biggest reason, obviously, other factors like Gaudreau and your 2 best players not actually wanting to be there, but besides the facts, I just wanted to bring this up quickly just on the goalies. I saw this from Oil and Goal yesterday.
Good follow.
So standings points impacted.
Okay.
Jack Campbell is -9, which means essentially he has lost the Oilers 9 points this season. Stuart Skinner is +8.
So he basically has that broken down. He has everything bleeds into positive appearances and negative appearances.
Yeah. So positive appearances this season for Jack Campbell, 10. He's played 30 games. Okay. Maybe even 34 or something. So I'm assuming this isn't counting like polls or whatever. Stuart Skinner, 21. Literally doubled him.
And they're flipped too, because Campbell has 20 negatives and Skinner only has 13 negatives.
So there just comes a point, and like you just kind of said, just to back it up, like you just got to ride Skinner now. Just got to ride him until the wheels essentially start to fall off slightly. Okay, here you go, Campbell. Here's your redemption game. I would be worried about playing him in Toronto, but I get it. But boy, oh boy, if something bad happens, it is going to be bad.
Yeah, like I'm sure Campbell he's probably itching to get that start. But you're right. Do you save him from himself a little bit and go, we're not? But then you can't throw him out there against Boston. That'd be like throwing a raw steak to a pack of hyenas.
That's true. It would be eaten. Well, the steak would be eaten dead.
Yeah. Who was it in the chat? Keith Richard says 100% Tyler, we can't be throwing away points right now. That was my point exactly, is right now these games are very important. The last 3, when you play like Anaheim and San Jose in 2 of them, you could maybe afford to say, hey, we're going to play Campbell and we're going to rest Stuart Skinner. That would be the motivation. At this point, the Campbell starts are no longer about getting Jack Campbell going, with maybe the exception being the game against Toronto. But in large, you are now only starting Campbell when you need to rest Skinner. That's the way this team's going to go. Stuart Skinner's the guy. I'm a collector. You are too. Yep. I'm going to load up on Stuart Skinner rookie cards because I think they're going to be very valuable in 6 months if he has the kind of run that I think he can.
There's been a narrative around Twitter, I guess, over the weekend since Campbell started that game of like, what would it take to buy him out? I'm probably not even close to there right now. I get it. It has been a very difficult season for Jack Campbell.
Yep.
Hell, we've just sat here for probably 41 minutes and not said many positive things about him.
No.
But next season's a new year, and I think that's when the Oilers will fully evaluate if Jack Campbell can be around. I think Jack Campbell can be a good goalie for this team. We've seen it in spurts this season. I just don't know if it's going to happen this time around, unfortunately. Yeah. But luckily for us, we have a very good goaltender in Stuart Skinner, too, who was an all-star this season.
$7.6 million on your goaltending is not bad at all.
Not that bad.
And Corb, I saw your comment, and yes, we're going to talk about the matchup against the Buffalo Sabres in a bit.
Oh, yes.
But I just really, like, the dominating storyline is that. I also want to share an interesting nugget Frank Saravalli passed along on the DFO Rundown. Pod drops every Monday and Thursday with himself and Jason Greger. And he was talking about the salary cap coming this summer.
Okay.
And this year, he believes they're going to find a way to increase it, even if it's artificial. He thinks there's enough motivation to do it from all sides, to open up the league a little bit, get some money flowing. Even if the players haven't paid back their debt to the owners, they will find a way to make it work. And Frank said in 2 years, so not this summer, but by next summer, we could see the salary cap go up as much as 8 or 9 million by then, which is interesting because right now, heading into this summer, if the cap only goes up $1 million, the Oilers are going to have 8.5. I think we can expect the cap to jump at least 3, which means the Oilers are going to have 10.5 million.
Okay.
They are losing, not losing. Their RFAs are Bouchard, McLeod, and Costin. Costin's going to cost you $1 million to bring back, so you're down to 9.5. McLeod will maybe cost you 2 if you go for a bit of term. You go for like a 2-year deal. $1.
You probably owe him a little bit
because he did you a solid this year. Yep, for sure. But I think between McLeod and Costin, whatever term, you're looking at like max 3.5.
Yeah,
which means you have $7 million with Bouchard to sign, and then your UFAs who are Ryan, Janmark, Shore, and Bukestad. You can bring back 3 of those at $1 million a pop. I wonder how they'll handle Bouchard is where I'm getting with all of this. Because the roster is pretty set. You maybe want to get a right winger to do that. Maybe you have to move out some salary from the left side. And I get this is an offseason conversation, but the point is they're locked in. And if they wanted to go long-term with Bouchard this summer, they could do that.
Yeah, and I think it might even be the right thing to do. They clearly have shown their belief in him by moving out Tyson Berry, and now your right side is essentially ran by Evan Bouchard. So why not just lock that in for maybe the next 6 years or something? I don't know. I don't even know a figure, but I would try and go long-term with him for sure. So you can just get a very reasonable cost for the team and not screw yourself like you did with Donnell Nurse.
Yeah. The other thing that would be that is great for the Oilers, Clefbaum, Smith off the books. That means if you play your cap smart this offseason, you can get to a point where you have no LTIR money, which means, like we saw with the Rangers, you're accumulating throughout the season. And that could really help you come next year's trade deadline, but that is a long ways away. The Oilers are in the middle of a playoff push. It's a Sherwood Ford Giant Game Day brought to you by their Ford Mobile Service Department. They'll come to you. Jay has even taken advantage of the fact that they have a valet service. Come pick up your car, bring it to Sherwood Ford while you're at work. Boom, they bring it back. Just like that. It's like your car never left. That's the kind of service you get with our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant. Want more info? Description of today's episode. The Oilers taking on the Buffalo Sabres, a team that is playing some pretty good hockey right now. 6-4-0 in their last 10, coming off an impressive victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. They are 32-25-4 on the season. They have struggled on home ice, though, and that is something that gives me some hope for the Oilers. Buffalo 13-16-2 on home ice this season. The Oilers have been a good road team, 18-10-3 on the road. Let's get to our lineup report. This is how the Sabres are going to be looking tonight. That top line, and it is worth noting, there is a big name missing from this top line for the Buffalo Sabres, and it's the guy who I say really changed the culture of the Sabres, in Alex Tuch.
Yes.
They brought in a local guy and a guy who wanted to be in Buffalo. He's out of the lineup, though, so it's Jeff Skinner with a potential MVP finalist. Not an MVP contender, because we all know who's winning MVP this year, but Tage Thompson with Jeff Skinner and Jack Quinn. Thompson, 7 points in his last 5 games on the year, 42 goals and 40 assists. Thompson's been just a beast this season. Dylan Cousins, the workhorse from Whitehorse, who has a brand new $7+ million extension, 3 goals in his last 5. Casey Middlestat, Vinny Hinostroza on his wings. Peyton Krebs with Victor Olofsson and JJ Paterka. Zemgus Girgensons with Kyle Okposo and the newly acquired Jordan Greenway on the 4th line. The D pairings for Minnesota, or for Buffalo, I was thinking of Jordan Greenway from Minnesota. For Buffalo, Rasmus Dahlin with Cale Clegg, Owen Power with Henry Yokoharu, Jacob Bryson with Ilya Labushkin, Alex Tuch, Riley Stillman, Matthias Samuelsson, that's another big loss for the Sabres team, and Tyson Yost are your injured players. Just from reading out those lineups, Liam, that top line looks good. Dylan Cousins on the second line looks good. After that, it falls off a bit. On the D pairings, Rasmus Dahlin, Norris quality D-man.
Yep.
After that, with Samuelsson out, everyone's up a notch in that blue line. This Sabres team is playing very inspired hockey. I love their coach, Don Granato. They're beatable, though.
Yeah, they are. And I like a lot of the players this team has, to be honest. And it's also interesting to note that JJ Paterka is now John Jason Paterka, too, which I thought was big. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it is funny that Daily Faceoff spells him out that way.
Yeah, I didn't. I just assumed his name was JJ, to be honest.
Straight up JJ? That's what his parents wrote? Just J&J?
Maybe.
Are you allowed to do that?
You can do whatever you want. It's your child.
There's rules.
I don't think there is rules.
Oh, yeah. There in Alberta, I believe there's rules. I think there's like certain months you can't name your child, and like there is a set of rules. Let me, if anyone in the chat knows anything about this, or maybe I'm totally out to lunch.
If anybody has recently named a child,
yeah,
let us know the process.
Let us know.
Clearly, we're not experts on that or anything. Apparently, according to some people.
Yeah, according to some people. Why would you listen to this at all? For insight into baby names, of course. North of 300 watching on the Nation Network YouTube. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for us. I know there's a bunch of you out there not hitting that subscribe button. We have personal beef until you do.
Sorry, I guess one thing on the Sabres is they kind of leak goals
Tell
to
me
an
more.
extent. So last game, they allowed 3. I feel like whenever the Oilers can score 3 goals, they typically win games. Before that, they allowed 7. That was unintentional, Jack. I'm sorry. They allowed 5 against Columbus. Then they allowed 4 against the Capitals. It's a high-scoring game. So if you're looking to bet tonight,
which we are,
I might look at the over, not for the fact of Stuart Skinner, but for the fact of Buffalo kind of giving you get.
On the season as a whole, the Sabres have allowed the 8th most goals against per game since February 1st. So in the last month and 5 days, using Feb 1 as just an arbitrary start, they've allowed the most goals against per game in the NHL, and they have half a goal more against per game than any other team in the NHL. They're at 4.42. The Ducks are in second at 3.92. That is not good. And if you're like, well, the Oilers are drunk too. Yep, you'd be correct. They're in the bottom 10, 7th last at 3.64 goals against per game, but these two teams have been scoring a lot. In fact, since February 1st, no one has scored more than the Edmonton Oilers, 4.36 goals per game. You take that and you combine it with the 3.64, quick math, 7, average of 8 total goals per game for the Edmonton Oilers. For the Sabres, you take 3.67, you go plus 4.42, math, 8.09. So there you go. That's a lot. Maybe you want to take the over. Let's get into things with our Betway wrap.
What a segue.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking like an auctioneer today.
Yeah.
Like I'm probably going way too fast. I apologize.
You're throwing a lot out there, but we had a bet from Jay, but I will just read it out loud because I didn't have time to put it in. But Jay today went with...
Did he go Oilers and over?
He went Oilers and over 6.5, which after our last conversation, Jay might be 2-12 after tonight if things go well for him, which is big.
I like that play. I like the Oilers to win, and I like the over tonight. One of my Daily Faceoff live bets of the day was taking over 7 goals in this game because I do think we're going to get to 8. And that doesn't mean Skinner's going to play bad. I just think it could be a 5-3 hockey game on either side of this bad boy.
So I went with the Oilers money line and Draisaitl 2+ points. Did it back-to-back games. Obviously got the hat trick the other game.
We didn't. Well, yeah, we haven't talked about that. Draisaitl hat trick. I know I talked about him a bit, but still impressive.
Yeah, nice little hat trick too. So I'm gonna go with that. 2 points for Dry. There was also a juicy one that Gavin, the intern, pointed out to me. Plus 1,000.
Okay, so 10-1.
Oilers to win. Over 6.5. McDavid to score twice.
Score like he's not points, goals.
Goals, which plus 1,000 for a guy that is. I know he's missed no goals in the last couple, but boy, oh boy, that is juicy as all heck.
It is. I want to find McDavid career against the Sabres. Do you like how we kind of just do our show prep while we roll?
During the show?
Like during the show. It's just tune in, Oilers Nation every day. Watch Yaremchuk Google stuff for 40 minutes. But Connor McDavid against the Buffalo Sabres in his career. I am good at Googling. I pulled that up quickly. He's played 12 games. He's got 12 points, 4 goals, 8 assists. The way you can always spin these numbers, like if you would have had like 12 goals in 12 games, I would have been like, great bet. Yeah, he'll score twice tonight. No, he only has 4 in 12 games. He's due for a big goal outburst against the Sabres is how I'll spin that.
And I feel like he might want to go against the Sabres, knowing he could have lived in that city.
That close.
So maybe it's kind of like, hey, look what you could have had. Bang. But instead, you had Jack Eichel who wanted to leave and left.
Davin says McDavid getting 5 goals tonight. Hey. Leslie says Jay's betting is like Campbell's goals against. Really bad. You go. So you can flash mine up again, Aaron. Sorry. I didn't. I'm on a heater right now, which is worth noting. I have won 3 games in a row because all I did was the over the other game. Oilers money line plus McDavid to go 2+ points plus 120. That is the bet. McDavid, he didn't get 2 points against Winnipeg on Saturday. He'll bounce back. He'll get it going again. I do like him to score, but just to bet him to score once, the payout sucks because the books don't want to give you anything. Oilers money line, McDavid 2+ points, plus 120. Boom, plus money. Solid. Sabres suck at home. So there's that.
There you have it.
There you have it.
I'm enjoying the debate that has gone throughout the show of why people watch.
Yeah, I mean, let us know.
Times, but yeah.
I like when people complain, like, or you'll get a DM being like, "Oh, you were talking about this on the show. That sucks." And it's like, "Hey, man, it's free."
There was also a thing like, I get it. Sometimes the internet sucks on this show.
Yeah,
trust me, we would love it to be better. Sometimes it just happens. But let's not forget, this is free.
It's free.
This is free.
We don't promise quality. We just promise that it's free. And we ask that if you have plumbing needs, you use Star Mechanical. Yes. And buy your apparel at Sports Closet, sportscloset.ca. Sergeant Battle says the reason he watches is because producer Aaron puts a lot of work into it. Yeah, AB's been on fire recently. A lot of you guys talking about a Discord you've made as just a group. Hell yeah, you go crazy. You guys go nuts with that thing. I don't know anything about it, so I wasn't going to start one.
Feel free to always throw that link in there.
Yeah, you can just, whoever runs it. I don't know which one I think it's
QF Pro and Lance do it.
Maybe.
Throw it in there.
Yeah.
I'll always accept it.
It's not Oilers Nation sanctioned, but I can't stop you guys from making a Discord. I just couldn't make one myself. Hey, how about this one from M? Is that what you were pointing at?
I was just going to say, M live in
London, UK. First time tuning in live.
First time reading.
Or maybe they're saying live in London, UK. First time tuning in live. The English language, Liam. It'll get you.
It's a difficult thing. I have struggled. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, welcome.
How far? Because I'm
from Bolton.
Yeah.
It's about a 4-hour drive from Manchester Manchester's northwest. London is southeast.
Okay.
So it's like
pretty
right
close.
Across.
Pretty close. Leslie says, I just started watching your show like 2 weeks ago. Mostly I find your takes refreshing and kind of honest. That's one way to put it. Thank you, Leslie. Thanks for watching. I know a bunch of you, obviously, because the numbers have shot up and stayed high. A bunch of you got into this because you started watching when Frank would hop on the show. So
yeah,
there you go.
Obviously, trade deadline was a crazy time, and there was a lot of speculation around the team. The Carlson era was huge.
Never forget.
Next
to Garth Brooks, Carlson era. Not like a Carlson jersey retirement, but just like Carlson era.
Yep. Chikrin era.
Chicken era was wild.
That was big. There was a lot of stuff going on. Patrick Kane was kind of something for a while too. Jonathan Taves.
Yeah.
Trade deadline. I love silly season just to reflect on it and think of like what could have been. And we like Tyson Berry. We haven't spoke about this at all, but we had Tyson Berry on the Daily Faceoff live trade deadline show.
Yeah, I interviewed him on Friday. That was weird.
I can't remember. Maybe we did talk about it, but he said there was a little bit more traction to that Carlson thing than maybe we kind of didn't think about.
He used the word traction.
He did. He knew what was going on.
Or he just used that word.
Yeah, maybe. But like he basically said like, hey, maybe it was, I don't know how close, but maybe a little closer than any of us thought about it.
Jeremy says he watches because he's listened to the pod forever and his pal Liam is on the show. Is that one of the guys you go for cheesecake with?
That is not.
Sorry,
Jeremy.
I didn't know.
I wonder if Jeremy is
the Jeremy you think he is?
Nicole's cousin. That's my guess.
Is
that you, Jeremy? Are you
no last name, so you are just taking a shot, and you know a lot of Jeremys.
I'm always talking about Jeremy.
All right, let's move to a wrap because we've been rolling here for like almost an hour, and I'm sure. Well, I got to go eat lunch. We got a new episode of Real Life coming later today. Thanks to everyone who tuned in live on the Nation Network YouTube. Hit the subscribe and like button before you dip out for the day. It's been a short for giant game day edition of the show. Oilers and Sabres, 5:30 Mountain Time. That gives you enough time to get home, make dinner, sit in front of the couch with your dinner, watch the Oilers play while you eat. That's a good combo. 5:30 starts. They're all right by me. I know a lot of people hate them. Shout out to AMA Travel and Sports Closet, Nick Bukestad, Matthias Ekholm, whoever you want on your jersey. They can help you out. They also have a ton in stock at one of their 3 locations, St. Albert Mall, Sherwood Park Mall, Kingsway Mall. I went and checked out that store over the weekend for the first time. Nice spot over at Kingsway.
Kingsway's a good mall. Underrated.
They win tonight?
We're going to Kingsway.
I was asking you more. I was more like, are the Oilers going to win tonight? I wasn't. We could go to Kingsway.
Yeah, I think the Oilers will win tonight. I'm going to go with a juicy like 7-3 or 4 or something. I think that'll be a lot of goals. I was
at Kingsway on Saturday. And I was walking around there. I was like, I haven't been here in forever. And I was like, man, the last time I was here is that time when we went to Nate together and we went to the food court. We'd go to the food court.
Yep, the Sabres. So.
Yeah, that was honestly, I've not been to Kingsway in that long since we went to radio school.
I go to the Disney store at Kingsway. That's about it. Is it still there?
I don't know.
For a while.
I walked around. I did a lap. The mall is very confusing. The layout threw me off. Anyways, I'm going to say the Oilers win as well, which means tomorrow on a Tuesday, I think Coombsy is going to stop by and do the show with us as well. So we'll have some fun. I think the Oilers are going to win, and we're going to have a really fun show tomorrow. Shout out to Star Mechanical, AMA Travel, Sherwood Ford the Giant, Betway 19+. Please bet responsibly, and Sherwood Ford the Giant. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the game tonight. Back tomorrow, noon Mountain.